Welcome to the Distance Kitchen, where we put a little heart in everything we make. Today I'm so excited to share a recipe with you. It is the perfect recipe to teach the muffin method of mixing. Remember, we don't want to overmix our liquid and our dry ingredients together because that creates too tough or hard, dry product. So by us making this together, you're going to learn how to do this and have great results every time you pick up a recipe for a quick bread. We are making the best fluffy buttermilk pancakes ever. And I know for a lot of us we go, buttermilk, blah! But you don't have to worry because the buttermilk has an acid in it. The sugar in the buttermilk converts to an acid. It mixes with our leavening agents, and it's what causes our pancakes to get nice and puffy and fluffy. So stay with me as we put this together. The first thing that we need to do is to put our dry ingredients into our large bowl. And so our dry ingredients are 2 cups of flour. And in here I have baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And I have some sugar. That's our dry ingredients. And we're just going to mix it up. And we're going to set it aside for right now. The next thing we need to do is to mix our liquid ingredients into a second bowl. I like to start with my eggs, and I like to mix them up before I put anything else in them. I just like to break them up. I think it just works out better. So I'm just using my whisk, and I'm mixing up the eggs to break up the egg yolk and egg white and mix it together. All right, let me go ahead and put my vanilla in so I don't forget. And then let me show you the buttermilk. The buttermilk is very different looking from our whole milk or 2% or skim milk. I need 2 cups. I want you to look at how thick this is. This is not spoiled milk. It's really important that you understand that. Oh, so nice. All right. So there's our buttermilk. I'm just going to put it over here in case I need to add just a little bit more to it. All right, this goes in here. And just look at how coated that is. I mean, this is really a thick milk. So let's just use our rubber scraper and get it all out. Okay. I love these measuring cups. We've talked about them in class. They're great because you don't have to get down at eye level. You can look from in here and you can see the meniscus, and it works out great. All right, let's mix this up. I just think it's so much easier having those eggs already mixed because then boom, look at that. Nice. All right, we now need to add this to here and give it a good mix. So I like to make that little well. Let's pour this in. Scrape out all that liquid because we need every drop of it. Oh, nice. Okay. And now we need to mix this together. You can use your whisk, you can use a wooden spoon, you can use your rubber scraper. I also have another whisk that I want to show you. This is a flat whisk, and I really like to use this sometimes because you can see that the wires are not as close together. So this also works well, but I'm going to just go ahead and use this for now. But you have options. You can make whatever you have work. You don't have to own a kitchen store with all those gadgets to make this. And remember, we're just mixing this until our flour is nice and moistened. And we do want to get everything off the sides and off the bottom. And this is what I like so much with these glass bowls. You can really see what is in your bowl and if it's mixed well, or if you need to go back and do a little bit more mixing. All right, now Our batter tells us that we need to let this sit for 10 minutes before we put our pancakes onto our griddle. And I want you to think why we want to let this sit for 10 minutes. And when we come back, we'll talk about why this needs to sit for 10 minutes, and we'll get our griddle ready. While our pancake batter is resting, I wanted to show you a couple of things that you really want to be aware of. When we think of baking soda, we probably think most of the time about this brand. It's been around for decades. It's what we've all seen. All right. When your recipe calls for baking soda, you need to make sure you're using baking soda. There's also baking powder. They act differently. They're both leavening agents, but they just do their job differently. So don't get baking powder and baking soda confused. That's the first thing I wanted to tell you. The second thing is the brand that made this baking powder also came out with baking soda. Look at how similar these cans are. The only thing really different, besides one says baking powder and one says baking soda, is the color. And I know that there's a lot of people who probably have mixed these up, thinking that they are grabbing this and getting baking powder, but it's really baking soda. So it's nice that they're both the same shape and size for fitting in your cabinet and for locating easily, but they also are very easy to get mixed up. So just make sure you really read those. And make sure when your recipe calls for baking soda, you're using baking soda. And when your recipe calls for baking powder, you use baking powder. The other thing I want you to be aware of is on the bottom, there is a date. It says best if used by. This one says July 9, 2021. So this is still good. So as long as the humidity and the temperature in my house is fine, this will stay active, and as long as the lid is on tight. But if this date, the best used by date, if it has come and gone, you need to chuck this in the trash because it's not going to do you any good. It's just not going to work. So just tuck that in your little bank of knowledge. It's just a good thing to know. The second thing I wanted to show you, because I wanted to get that batter together and giving it a chance to sit for the 10 minutes and not have a really long video, I wanted to show you the measuring. When you're measuring your dry ingredients, remember, for flour, you can't scoop it. You will get too much if you do that. You will compact your flour down. So you want to absolutely get in here, stir this up. Remember, stir this up, lighten it up, and then you can fill up your measuring cup with this. So you can use a spoon. I have a scoop in here that I use. And you want to fill this until it mounds over. All right, so there we go. This is mounding over. Take a straight edge. And some of you did a fabulous job with this when you were making your videos on how to measure dry ingredients. Just make sure you use the flat edge and not the rounded edge when you go to do your scraping off, to level that off. And just like that, you have measured your flour correctly. You've loosened it up, lightened it up, spooned it in, have it mounded over, leveled it off. All right, I'll be right back. All right, guys, thank you for waiting and coming back. Oh my gosh, it's time to make our pancakes. Whether you're using a mix or making your pancakes from scratch, super easy and fast, great meal, whether it's for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. We're actually going to have this for our dinner tonight. So what I have here is I have melted some butter, and I am going to take it and place it on my griddle. And you really want to know your griddle and know what temperature works the best for it. Mine is about 370 degrees. When this was new, 375, and it doesn't make sense why as it gets older that is sometimes just a touch too hot, maybe because my heating element doesn't heat quite as evenly. But I do want to get my griddle covered with the butter so that my pancakes do not stick. The other thing, and it took me a few years to learn this the hard way, is I also like to take my spatula that I'm going to use, my turner that I'm going to use on my pancakes, and I coat that as well, because when I'm checking on my pancakes, I don't need them sticking to my turner. Okay, so that just is always a nice little thing to do. There we go. That's all ready. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my butter out of the way because this little pot, this little saucepan is really hot. All right, here's our nice puffy batter, and it is going to look really thick. And I just want to touch that up a tad. I want to see my butter doing a little bit more bouncing here before I put my batter on. If you're not sure if your temperature is correct, you can always make one pancake at a time and wait, or make the first one by itself and make sure your temperature is right, that they're nice and golden brown when you go to flip them. And then you'll be ready to go. All right, here we go. Now, this is really thick batter, and that's okay. It needs to be thick, so let's see what happens here. And listen to that nice sizzle. And let's put one more on here. Now, generally for pancakes, when you can tell that they're done because they start to bubble around the edges, and then you know it's time to flip them. With these pancakes, you just need to watch them, and you'll start to see the edges changing their color a little bit and how they appear. They become a little bit opaque, and you can actually see them starting to cook around the edges, which is really nice. So we're going to wait a few minutes, and then we're going to check on these to flip them. While these are cooking, I'm going to tell you what I have over on the stove. I took a couple of apples, and I washed them really good, and my husband cored them and sliced them for me, and then we just sliced them to make sure they weren't too thick. And I melted a little bit of butter in my saucepan. I added a little bit of brown sugar, a tad of vanilla, cinnamon, and a little bit of water and some lemon juice. And the lemon juice keeps the apples from turning all brown. And I just put them on to simmer and to cook. And that's what we're going to use to put on top of our pancakes instead of syrup, because we just like to do that sometimes. Sometimes we're all about the syrup. Sometimes we like to put on a nice apple compote on top. You know, the apple compote just works so beautifully with this autumn theme that we've been talking about with our quick breads. And then if you want to put a little syrup on, go for it. But it just works out really well. So as you can see, they're starting to cook around the edges. And then in a moment, I'll be flipping them, and we'll see how they're turning out. So let's see here. I just want to come under and peek a little bit. Oh yes, they're not quite ready to flip. So I just need to give it a little bit more time, but I have my plate ready. And I was noticing with the different things I've been baking today, I have a little bit of pumpkin left in a can back here. And so I'm going to make some of these regular, and then I'm just going to take some of that pumpkin and I'm going to mix in here, and I'm going to throw in a couple of pumpkin pancakes as well. You can absolutely do that, and it won't mess up your batter at all. So let's go ahead. You can see that they're starting to have some steam coming off, and that's a great sign. So let me come over here and come under and flip that. Look at that beautiful golden brown. Here we are, and then we're going to come over and catch this one. And we want to let this side cook about 4 minutes, just like we did on the first side. And we'll watch. You'll be able to watch how this is coming together and cooking. In fact, already I could see this batter cooking in that. But you don't want to pull them too soon. You want them to cook thoroughly on the inside. And so by doing this, letting them sit for about 4 minutes on the first side, flipping them 4 minutes on the second. Like I said, you'll get to know your griddle and how it works to know when it's the right time to do that. And I don't know if you could hear, but my daughter just got home from work, and it's perfect timing because when we get done here, we're going to just finish up with some breakfast meat that we have and have the pancakes, and it'll be a great thing for her to come home to work and for us to have dinner together as a family. As I said, this is just so much fun to do together. If you can get your if your schedules work so that your families can do this together, oh my gosh, it is really going to be great. Okay, so I'm looking at that, and that one there just needs to cook a little bit more. We're doing great here. And I can just come over here and just look underneath. Oh my gosh, these are gorgeous. I can't wait for you to see. Let me go ahead and move the bowl of batter because I want to go ahead and plate these for you. They look tremendous. I do want to also grab another little heat mat to protect my counter because what I'm going to do is bring the apples over as well. And then we'll also have a little reminder about the temperature of what's in a pan and how to take that lid off correctly. All right, let's go ahead and grab our butter. And let's just go ahead and put it on our pancakes. Listen to that sizzle, isn't it great? Aren't you hungry? All right. Oh, my daughter brought her boyfriend home, so we're going to have a great time together, everybody together enjoying these. I'm so excited. Here we go. Remember, when you lift the lid, lift it away from you so that the steam goes away from you. You don't need a steam burn, guys. We just don't have time for that. All right, let's plate these. Oh, aren't they fabulous? And then, as we said, we're talking about autumn. Autumn flavors. Take some of those apples and put on here and some of that juice. And there you have it, guys. What a great recipe to have. And I just want you to remember, have fun in the kitchen, be safe, but remember, most importantly, put a little heart in everything you make. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.